Welcome back. At one point, El Salvador, tiny little Central American country, had the highest murder rate in the entire world. Ruthless drug cartels controlled pretty much everything. The government was effectively obsolete in a lot of different ways. It is changing very fast, though. I love this story. 2,000 cartel members were just transferred to El Salvador's new mega prison, which is awesome. It'll hold 40,000 inmates. It's said to be the single largest prison in all of the Americas. Gang members stripped to their shorts, heads shaved, regularly emasculated. It's pretty good. This after tough-on-crime President Nayib Bukele declared war on gangs wreaking havoc in his country last March, enacting emergency powers to untie the hands of law enforcement and eviscerate the gang cancer. Since the emergency powers were enacted, El Salvador's police have arrested more than 64,000 violent gang members. President Bukele tweeted about the mega prison's new arrivals. This will be their new house where they'll live for decades, mixed up, unable to do any more harm to the population. 8 months ago, the liberal Washington Post had this headline: why El Salvador's mass arrests won't lower the murder rate. Pretty standard fare from the clowns that work in the mainstream press here in the United States. And it is, of course, fake news city. Total homicides back in 2015 under the weak on crime leftist president Salvador Sanchez Cerén were 6,656. Can you imagine a small country where 6,000 people are murdered? It was astonishing. Something like 107 out of every 100,000 people were murdered in El Salvador. In 2022, under Bukele, 495 total homicides. Incredible. Maybe Democrat leaders in this country and their media counterparts could learn a thing or two from El Salvador about stopping violent crime. You wonder if the Washington Post reporter that wrote that ridiculous article maybe saw these stats. Former acting CBP Commissioner Mark Morgan joins us now, along with Josh Hammer, who's the opinion editor at Newsweek. Gentlemen, it's great to have you both on. Mark, I want to start with you. We should make every single liberal watch this story, kind of, like Clockwork Orange style, like peel their eyelids up, eye drops, just force them to watch it even though they don't want to.
Yeah, Rob, I agree. Look, the concept is righteous. I know it's shocking, but let's follow the bouncing ball here. If you actually enact policies and unleash law enforcement to actually go after criminals and apply consequences to those who cause havoc in your community, right, you're going to see crime go down. Now, let's keep in mind, though, there's two important things. There are some things they're doing that I'm not 100% behind, because it would be in violation of our Constitution. But the concept is sound. Go after the criminals. You're going to see crime reduce. But before we give them too much credit, remember, this is also the country that over decades have allowed gangs to flourish. MS-13, for example, one of the most powerful transnational criminal organizations on the face of the planet, their origin is connected with El Salvador. Right. And let's not forget, it's their government who also is allowing individuals like MS-13 gang members to illegally enter the United States and operate freely in this country as well.
Yeah. Well, I understand that side of it. I can also understand why they would selfishly want to get rid of these terrorists, because who wouldn't want to get them out of the country? Josh, your thoughts?
So, Bukele's approval rating in El Salvador is roughly 91%. Now, the Washington Post can cry their hysterical shrieks all they can. The most recent poll that I saw, actually, his closest prospective challenger in an election was 2%, literally a drop from 91% to 2%. And it makes total sense. I mean, if you had asked anyone a year or two ago, what do you think of El Salvador? Well, obviously the first few things that come to mind are crime, MS-13, drugs, cartels. I mean, this country was a total crap hole. The former president, I think, might have slightly more colorful term to describe El Salvador. But, if you are a voter in El Salvador, you should be a one-issue voter. And he has done an astoundingly good job on this one issue. And if you look at the four traditional penological goals of punishment, it's deterrence, retribution, rehabilitation, and the fourth one that no one ever talks about anymore, incapacitation. Just taking bad guys out of the streets and literally incapacitating them. Yeah. But if you looked at the tweet we showed from Bukele, he literally said exactly that. Just take them off the streets. Yeah. Problem solved.
Yeah. I mean, if criminals are not scared to commit crime, they're going to commit a lot of crime. And there's a lot of bad people in any society. Mark, real quick, here's Reuters. This is how they described El Salvador's approach.
a controversial crackdown on crime that's caused the country's prison population to soar. Human rights organizations have reported that innocent people have been caught up in the law enforcement campaign. That includes dozens, they say, who have died in police custody.
You know, I think in the West, we have this addiction to this idea that people are, you know, deprived, that they're somehow victims of government. I mean, it's astonishing how far you can watch a society just get eviscerated by crime, and still you have people out there that are so scared to get tough on crime. And I think you feel that in the media as well.
That's right. Look, this is a continuation of what we hear from the American mainstream media all the time as well, especially when it comes to the border. They're trying to convince American people that we're not actually seeing what we're seeing with our own eyes. Look at that video. Did you see a single individual that was in custody that didn't have tattoos all over them, including what gang they're affiliated with? So I'm not sure I'm totally on board with there's a lot of innocent people being wrapped up. And Robert, one last thing. Look, the president of El Salvador, I hope that he's going to stay strong in his resolve and commitment, because what happens with these gangs a lot of times, I worked them as an FBI agent. I supervised the MS-13 gang task force. Even once they go to prison, their criminal activity influence doesn't change. So it's not only incarcerating them, but it's also neutering their capability to run things from inside the prison. So a lot is yet to remain to be seen.
Yeah, you know, Josh, the final word to you, but the media spends a lot of time on the plight of the average criminal, and at the same time, they almost mostly exclusively ignore all crime in the country, which is something I learned in local news. We don't talk about crime anymore.
Yeah, of course. And the media will totally not talk about the people whose lives have been spared by the fact that all these homicide committing felons, gang members, terrorists are locked in jail. I mean, look at those numbers, 6,600 homicides down to nearly 500. That is astounding. If you are not an MS-13 gang member, if you're an innocent El Salvadorian, you are feeling good right now.
Reuters couldn't care less about the 6,000 alive people in El Salvador in 2022. I can guarantee you that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
You bet. Thanks.